Please, permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 133 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you live from the Outpost. I am your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I'm your host, Alex the Historian.
And I guess we haven't come up for something for Jeremy to say, because it's me the host, Alex the host. What should Jeremy also say the host?
I just feel like when I'm in this like box that's socially distant from the other boxes.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's like the guest seat. So I don't know, but it seems that I've been a permanent guest throughout this wole quarantine. So
if you think about it this way, the image of me and Matt won't get you sick. So
there it is.
Okay.
Jeremy will stay healthy, and Alex and I will be sick because we're close. Anyways, guys, Jeremy's back again. Why don't you say hi, Jeremy?
Hello, everybody. Everyone's been saying hi to me for like the past 5 minutes. So
Jeremy has been getting Ben says third wheel. Oh no, because it is like the third little it's out there like on the screen.
True. I am third wheeling.
Well, we can make it a fourth wheel because Bob Chapek is here, you guys.
He's with
behind
you?
me.
He's like quarantined with you?
He's quarantined with me at the venue, you guys. He played a concert last night, private concert for me and my friends. You guys, Bob Iger. Did I say Bob Iger or Bob Chapek? I can't remember. Whichever one I said.
You said Bob Chapek.
Bob Chapek, you guys. He can jam out. He can sing. He can play the guitar and the drums at the same time. All three at the same time. If you guys haven't seen it, fantastic. Anyways. Yeah, so welcome to the episode, everybody. We're glad to have you here. And, yeah, you guys know the deal. Links to all of our social medias will be down in the description below, as always. And if you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the stream, you can do so by calling the number 575-386-5814. We will be listening to the voicemails live throughout the episode. You can call in, leave a voicemail if you have any thoughts on any of the topics we are talking about at hand. And if you guys would... Wait, I said the voicemail number. Oh, it's time for birthdays then. I'm all over the place right now, you guys. It's birthday time, you guys. If you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the stream, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description below. Submit your name and the birthday in the Google form below, and we'll add it to our birthday calendar. And we do have a fair bit of birthdays. I believe last week on Monday the 20th of April was Sean Connor's birthday. His was added a little late, but that's okay. And I believe Brandon C. on the 25th of April as well was added late. So happy birthday to Brandon. This week, the 29th, we have two birthdays. Noel Durr's birthday, as well as Rupert Hudson's birthday. Happy birthday to both of you guys on the 29th, Wednesday the 29th of April. And to cap off the week on the 2nd of May, you guys. Guess whose birthday it is, you guys? It's Alex the Historian's birthday, everybody. Yay! Happy birthday.
Wow.
Happy early birthday to Mr. Alex.
Finally
Alex,
turning the big 4-5.
the big 4-5. All right. Happy 45th birthday to Mr. Alex the Historian, then.
Well, you look it.
Thank you.
Owned. Roasted. Guys, someone call the fire department because Alex just got burned.
Is it still a burn? Wait. Oh, no, it is. Okay. Never mind. You got it.
Oh, it's a burn.
It's a burn. Alex isn't really 45. He's just joking.
No, he's not 45.
I feel 45 at times.
So do I. I'm sure we all do. At some point in our lives.
I don't know what I feel anymore.
That's very good.
Just emptiness. Oh, God. No, I will be turning 28.
28. The big
Nice.
2-8.
The big 2-8.
The big 2-8. That's a big one. Big milestone.
Two more years crawling toward 30. Are you scared?
You know, I'm not. It's funny. My sister, she just turned 29, and she is like really dreading turning 30. But me, I'm like, I don't really care. I'm like, like 30 is not old to me, and it's just not. You're still very young.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
But I will admit that it's a little bit like weird to think I still think of myself as like that 15-year-old nerd. It's weird every time I think. Yeah, every time I think about myself being like, turning 28, I'm like, am I really like that old? Like, I don't feel like 28 in that sense. It's just so many years have gone by.
Well, I wouldn't know because I just turned 13 this past week. So
yes, Matt just Matt can.
Wow, if you were turning 13, then you're in a lot of trouble.
I turned 13 again last year too, though. So I guess it's 14.
I
this
know,
year.
it's crazy.
I'm old enough to drive finally, you guys. I've made that joke so many times. It's probably old at this point, but
let's
old enough to drive. Is that the age it is in New Mexico?
Is it not 50? Is 15 not like the? Well, I don't even remember when I started driving. But
Matt, drink some Snapple. Drink some Snapple.
We'll drink some
I think
Snapple,
in
you
California,
guys.
it's 16. 16, you can drive, but you have to have like a special permit in California.
A whole wide world of knowledge waits underneath the cap. It's once again time this week for Matterhorn Snaps.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy, Matt. I think you're muted.
Yeah. 1 second.
Hello.
Because he went like this.
I'm back, you guys.
Okay, Matt, what did you do?
I muted myself, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
You see, you guys, you can tell when like there's a technical difficulty happening because me and Jeremy will just go completely quiet, waiting to see who talks next.
Yeah.
And then we see Matt talking, but there's no sound. We're just like, oh.
I try to kind of like, if like, because if it's like on my end and it's like I'm cutting out, I'll pretend I'm still there, and like when it picks back up, I'll try to pick it up based on context clues, but.
Yeah, I try not to.
I saw Alex's face and I was like,
yeah, I was looking at you guys and I was like, wait a minute, is something wrong here? I guess my microphone unplugged or something. Well, anyways, it's a time for Matt Snaps, you guys. You heard the theme song, so you didn't need to hear whatever I was saying. I'm sure was not funny or relevant at all, so you didn't miss out on anything. But
never is. Never is,
exactly. But it's time for. Let me shake this actually. Same as always, mango Snapple. I need some sugar in my system, you guys. I stayed up late last night. Oh my gosh, I just lotioned up my hands, like to get them. It sounds weird to say that. I just lotioned up my hands. Well, anyways, my hands are slick because I just put lotion on.
Say it the way British people say it. You creamed your hands.
I creamed my hands. Guys.
They don't say lotion. They say creams. They're like, oh, cream your hands.
Oh my God. Like, this is hilarious. literally 2 minutes before going on the air, we were like, guys, let's stay on topic today. Let's like really make sure we stay. And I feel like for the past 15 minutes, we've been the most off topic than we ever have in the history of this podcast.
It's the magic that makes us us.
The magic that makes us us. Well, anyways, let me snap. Let me get a good. Oh, there it goes.
God, that's so
it
funny.
Snapped. Prematurely, it snapped. During the Boston Tea Party, 342 chests of tea were thrown into the harbor. You guys, imagine getting mad over some tea.
That's
that
not
like
quite what happened.
Yeah.
Is that not, it's been a while since I took my history classes, but that's the gist.
It's been a while since you've been educated at all.
It's been a while since I've been in school, you guys. But I just want to point out, someone in chat called Jeremy J-Dog. I thought that was pretty funny. No one else addressed that.
What's going on?
What's going on? I thought that was pretty funny.
No, it was addressed. Someone said J-Dog. Is that a thing?
We'll make it a thing. J-Dog.
You know, my
J-Dog.
My uncle's name was James, and people used to call him J-Dog.
Hey,
Jeremy.
That was back in the
some
90s.
people call me. I hate this, but like people who like meet me and they think they're being kind of funny and friendly and clever will call me Jer Bear.
Jer Bear. I would hate that
I've thought about
too.
doing that. I've thought about like just randomly when I like Discord message him. I thought about just calling him like Jer Bear.
No, I have a cousin whose name is Jeremy too, and he hates being called Jer Bear as well. I would hate it as well, Jeremy, if my name was Jeremy.
Listen,
I'd hate it too.
I don't hate it. I really, at the end of the day. But anyway,
like a cute little
now that you
nickname.
mentioned it, they're gonna start calling you that, Jeremy. You know that, right? You've spilled the beans.
what people do actually call me is Jer. They call me Jer. Hey, Jer.
Hey, Jer.
Okay, can we go to the peak?
Yeah, you
Can we
guys.
just go right on?
Guys, we're almost to the peak. We're just about climbing to the top, and what do you know it? We just got to the top of the peak. It's time for news from the peak, you guys.
We now
there's so much
present
news
to
there.
you
Guys,
news
look at all this news
from
that's
the
just
peak.
growing on the peak of the Matterhorn.
We just got to the peak. There's so much news. Wow, we are all over the place today.
Yeah. Well, what else is new? We're always all over the place. Anyways, we do have some little quick tidbits here from news from the peak because we do have some great main topics that we're excited to get to. First bit of news from the peak: Disney and Sony have pushed back some of their releases of films, Marvel films, that is. Spider-Man 3, which was previously scheduled for July 16th of 2021, will now be in theaters on November 5th instead of July 16th. And Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, has been pushed back as well from its original date of November 5th of 2021, a whole year almost, to March 25th of 2022. So it's going to be a while since till we get to see our web-slinging friends, our magic slinging friend in the theaters. Thor Love and Thunder has also been moved up 1 week to February 25th of 2022. So these are just the latest in the what do you call this? The latest in the movie theater news pushbackers. Well, I don't even know. You guys, this is really nothing new. Movies have been pushed back these past 2 months, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not these release dates stick. I mean, I'm sure they will. The 2022 ones, I mean, even the 2021 Spider-Man 3, July 16th of 2021, that was pushed back as well to November, so almost a year from now, so that's kind of interesting to me to see. But do you guys think, just very briefly, do you guys think that these release dates are indeed set in stone, or do you even think that these release dates will be changing once again? Let's start with Jeremy here.
I think they're roughly good estimates. I mean, like we've been saying for the past over a month now, all these movies are going to be pushed back, especially with the Marvel movies. They don't want to release those ones, just to Disney Plus because they really rely on the international box office for all of that. So I think the reason, especially the 2022 one, I think it's pretty reasonable. But who knows? If I've learned anything the past 4 years, it's anything is possible.
Alex, what are you laughing at over there? He's giggling
Because
to
I looked
himself.
up and like Jeremy's face is over Peter Parker. So Jeremy looks like Spider-Man.
Guys,
Not
spoilers.
So bad, not bad.
Spoilers.
You're in shape now.
I'll take it.
I'll take.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Alex, do you have any brief thoughts on these Marvel films being pushed back? I mean, we've been echoing like a broken record for the past, month already. But Alex, what do you have to say here in regards to this?
It's not news. We should probably stop featuring this stuff.
All right, moving on to our second bit of news from the peak. No, Alex has a point.
Listen, I think we can cover the date changes and then just move on to whatever is next on the thing, because the reasoning behind it is we're gonna keep saying the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
True. But for our second bit of news from the peak here, this is interesting to me. online check-in will be required for future Walt Disney World Resort room reservations. Disney has recently placed a notice in the My Disney Experience app telling guests that check-in must be done prior to arriving the resort, and guests will therefore skip the check-in counter and go straight to their hotel rooms. Now, this, is most likely in response to the global, pandemic that's been going on. But do you guys think that this could possibly be a view into future Disney checking in mobily without going into the counters? And what other measures do you expect to be put in place once the parks reopen? Very briefly, Alex, what are your thoughts here? Because this is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting to me too, because I would have never thought that any business would do that. But I mean, it's that's an interesting way to get around, and the social distancing thing. I do have one concern though, because it does sound awesome. It's like, oh, you don't have to wait in line for check-in. Go straight to my room. But there is one thing. There's a lot of cast members that rely on their front desk jobs.
That's true.
To talk to the guests and sort out their stuff. I'm sure there still be front desk cast members, but there only be a need for half as many with that kind of process. So that could affect people's jobs.
Jeremy.
It absolutely will affect people's jobs. And we already know that Iger has expressed that a sort of permanent moving forward with the company is to hire the least amount of people as possible.
Yeah.
So to run the company more efficiently, and so I think this is being done for that reason entirely, is to actually cut back on the physical workforce.
Yeah, and someone said in chat, I'm curious what they'll do so guests can get their room keys. You can actually I believe you can check in using your phone, depending on what kind of phone you have. I'm 99% sure. Nate said in chat actually that you can open the door, your hotel room door with your phone because of the NFC chip or one of those fancy acronym chips that your phone has. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. We'll be covering this going forward as well if there is any other news regarding it. But for our final bit of news from the peak here, guys, this is kind of an uplifter here, you guys. Disney is now offering free goodnight phone calls from your favorite Disney characters. The new Disney Bedtime Hotline will be available through April 30th, so you only have a few more days to take advantage of this, at least unless they maybe decide to extend it. You can choose between Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy. And as you can see up here, well, I guess the picture is blocking the graphic there, but the number is 8777 Mickey. And I believe Alex has something to say. So, Alex, what are your thoughts here?
Yes, it's not new. It's
I was
really old.
I was gonna say this is nothing new, but
I remember when I was a kid. Well, I guess I wasn't that young, but I was 14. But anyway, I was at Walt Disney World, and then we decided to check out the hotline, and so we called, and you could hear Mickey's voice, and we called again. There was Goofy's voice. It was really cool. But yeah, it's been around for a long time, and they were going to retire it last September. As a matter of fact, I think they did retire it last September.
Yeah.
And then they brought it back because of this.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome. Really, really awesome.
Yeah. Matt, why don't you call right now?
You guys were reading my mind. I have the number dialed up here, so let's go ahead and see. I think I did this once before with Yoda. They had different options for Star Wars characters and Marvel characters, but let's go ahead and ring this number and see what happens. Hope that's loud.
Hi there. Welcome to the Disney Bedtime Hotline, brought to you by ShopDisney.com. To help you create the magic moment in your little one's nighttime
I feel like this is going to
routine,
take a while.
Follow the prompts to hear a special bedtime message from some of your little one's favorite Disney characters. Press 1 to hear from Mickey.
Who do we want?
Press
Who do you guys
2 to
want?
hear
Vote in
from
chat.
Minnie.
Donald.
Press
I
3
want
to hear
Donald.
from Donald.
Mickey.
Press 4 to hear from Daisy. Or press 5 to hear from Goofy. Thanks for calling, and have a magical night.
I guess we should just do Mickey.
We can do
honestly.
Hi there. Welcome to the Disney...
We can do Mickey. We'll push 1 for
Your
Mickey
selection
here.
was not valid. Please try again.
Oh.
Wait, what number was it for Mickey? Is it 2 for Mickey?
1.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Why, hello, dear. It's
Oh.
me, Minnie Mouse.
I guess we're
I'm
doing Minnie
so
then.
glad that you called me tonight. I hope you had a wonderful day and that you're all ready for bed. You're probably wearing your cozy PJs. I'm sure you've brushed your
I
teeth,
am, Minnie.
and now you're snuggled into bed. Oh, I just love crawling under the covers after a busy day. And today I was very busy planting in my garden. Soon I'll have the most beautiful petunias. Well, dear, I hope you have sweet dreams.
Okay.
So good night, and remember I love you. Mwah.
Well, that's that. It's
You
kinda
know,
straightforward.
I must be an awful person because there were a few times where I thought that the conversation was going to turn somewhere else. and
So
that-
did I.
and not recording.
Minnie, re-record your voice
I did
line.
too.
I'm awful.
I did too.
Like, I
And
need
for
to-
for some reason, I heard panting in my garden.
I heard that too. Like I was like, "What?" She was awful busy today. I was like, "Oh,
Panting in my garden.
okay,
Oh.
we should probably change the subject."
Guys, well, again, 877-7-Mickey is the number if you'd like to play around with this. I mean, I'm sure there are other Mickey there's Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy. So that was, I guess, it said push 1 for Mickey, and I pushed 1, but it said not valid. So whatever.
Not
Anyways.
valid.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but I guess Mickey was busy at that time, so only Minnie was
Yeah.
available. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that, there it is. Yeah, I believe that is going to wrap up this week's news from the Peak. And oh, excuse me, I just had tacos, you guys, leftover tacos. They were really good. That's where that came from. If you were wondering, you probably weren't, but now you know. So it's time to get into the main topics, everybody. And we do have some great main topics for you here today. First main topic, we do have a couple bunched here together. Disneyland Resort Flyover, as well as Abigail Disney calling out some of the Disney executives. We're very excited to get into that as well. Second main topic, we're of course going to be running down the COVID-19 virus rundown of the week, news from the week, and finally, Attraction Retrospective, which you guys voted for on Twitter, and it was kind of a landslide winner once again. We're very excited to get into very excited to get into that. No spoilers as to what that is for. Stay tuned till the end of the episode. But first, for our main topic here today, you guys, this comes to us from Mr. Alex the Historian, actually. He sent me this video, the Disneyland Resort Flyover, and I believe he would like to have a discussion on what this could possibly mean for refurbs that may or may not have been currently in the works once the park closed. So very excited to get into this. So let's go ahead and play. Alex, I'm not sure which part of the video you want me to play. Jumped.
It starts at 9 minutes exactly.
9 minutes. Okay, yeah. So I just already had it jumped here to the Disneyland part.
And
so let's go.
this is from the channel Micah Flies, and so I discovered it by watching this video. But he flies over like several Disney Southern California theme parks, or not Disney, several Southern California theme parks, and this was his first time being able to fly over Disneyland because of its flight restrictions. But I thought it was really cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Got the Matterhorn, got the Space Mountain. Oh, Star Wars Land. Oh, it's so cool. This is
Well,
just
ain't
the
that
best.
something?
So I'm not going to go too slow because airspeed is really important if for some reason I were to have an engine failure. But I'm keeping a modest pace. Let's all drink it in. I'm going to shut up. Hey, there's Main Street. And it's a small
That
world.
is so weird.
I hate that ride.
Wait a minute, what?
And
Yeah,
it is
it's
so much
small
smaller
world.
than you'd expect from the ground.
That is so bizarre.
Wow, there's
Rarely
the
do you get a
Millennium
chance
Falcon.
to see Disneyland from up above
Oh,
like this.
it's so cool. I'm so geeking out here.
That is really cool.
And then, of course, Splash Mountain. It has a little bit of that Knott's Berry Farm vibe where it looks really cool from the ground, and then up top it just looks like some industrial buildings.
Slow-mo replay in 12 seconds.
And that's it.
Yeah, the slow replay is pretty cool. You get to really just
I told you I couldn't
enjoy
linger.
it.
nonetheless, I think that was worth it.
Oh, that's loud. That song's probably copyrighted, so we'll mute that for now. But yeah, this is a really neat, like I said, you rarely do get to see like overhead video, or overhead. Sometimes you get to see pictures, but rarely do you get to see overhead video like this of Disneyland from the sky.
Now, I have a question for anybody watching right now. I was trying to record this off of my screen in 4K because the video is in 4K, but my computer is not powerful enough to play the video while recording the video. So if anyone has the ability to record this, what?
Talk to me after the stream and I will tell you how to do it.
There's also, I'll talk to both of us there because you don't need to record it. But
I talk to you guys all the time and you never say anything.
Well,
talk to us immediately right after we go off the air.
All right.
Okay.
Well, anywho, so what? Yeah. So what's really cool about this is you get to see some of the things that were happening just when they, finally made it so, all the employees had to go home and stuff like that. So, in the video, you'll see areas where they're refurbing things, and so I figure we can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I think this is a really cool video.
When he said slow-mo flyover, I didn't assume it would be like this very cinematic slow-mo or replay. When you said slow-mo replay, I didn't assume it would be this very cinematic, high frame rate replay. But this is a very beautiful video. So, Alex, what did you want to, I guess more specifically, detail here from this video that you could see with the refurbs going on?
Well, if you want to scooch it back to where he was flying over Main Street in slow motion, I can show you the first thing that really caught my eye. I should probably check over here to see where.
Oops. Wait a minute.
You messed it up. You messed it up.
Oh my gosh.
You messer.
I'm actually about to. There we go. There it is. Full screen this time.
Yeah.
Okay. So he should be hovering over around Main Street here. Oh, okay. I did it again.
What did you do?
I keep trying to use the. We'll just keep it playing. We'll just keep it playing through.
No, because just.
And I'll pause it here. Okay, no, wait. Okay, I can pause it, and I will pause it once we get to the Main Street section, so Alex can say what he has to say here. And there's Tomorrowland.
Well, actually, if you want to pause it right there over Tomorrowland, I can talk about what you probably see right there. So, so it might be hard for you guys to see because the screen is so small, but they still have a wall around the staircase that they were building in front of Space Mountain. So, even like 8 months after they first started that project, it's still not finished.
Isn't that weird?
It's craziness. It's absolute craziness. But anyway, and if you want to keep going into Main Street, then I'll show you what they do over there.
What they do over there.
Okay, so the path that goes from the hub to the Matterhorn, you can see that there's this big white tarp over it.
Yeah.
And that is more sidewalk work that they're doing to reshape that area, because when they were dropping all the curbs around the hub, the only places they didn't get to do was that spot that leads up to the Matterhorn, and then the entrance to Frontierland, which both you can see have a white tarp over them. So we can take from that, and I'm very sure of myself when I say that they're probably repaving that with the new paving bricks that they've been using around the rest of the hub, because it looked awful. Like it looked like it was what it looked like before was really cheap. It looked like bricks, but it was actually concrete that they like, took a stick and drew like lines to represent like where the bricks end and where they begin. And it looked awful. It didn't look realistic at all, and especially since it was just junk. But anyway, so they're going to replace that, I'm assuming, with the brickwork that they've been doing the rest of the hub with, and then it'll be a nice smooth transition. And I think it'll look great. I'm actually really glad they were doing that, because I was worried that they wouldn't. But also from this perspective, you can also see that they have completely covered up King Arthur's Carousel. Now, back when the park was still open, yes, there was a wall around it of scrims, but they didn't cover the roof of it with scrims. The roof was still exposed back then, but you can see here that they covered the roof. I'm guessing because they never got to finish replacing the steel roofing, so they don't want to get the rest of the carousel damaged, so they cover that. You can also see the exposed scaffolding over Snow White's Snow White ride. I guess you can't call it Scary Adventures anymore, but the Snow White ride. And last I saw, they had already done like the first coats of paint on that, so they probably stopped right there. So probably a few more coats, or come to think of it, if it's exposed to the weather like that and just sitting there, they're probably gonna have to repaint it because they didn't get to finish it. So, and they got to put the layer over it that actually like seals it in. But anyway, and then if you keep going, you'll eventually see the scaffolding around the Haunted Mansion, which doesn't, probably shouldn't surprise you that there's no work going on that. It's just halted. And the last I saw, the Haunted Mansion was receiving also its base coats of paint. So if they never finish the top coats, then the base coats might have to be redone when the park reopens. And I'd like to add a little bit of like speculation about that too, which is I feel like the parks will need a period where they have to train their cast members for like 2 or 3 weeks. And probably during that 3-week period, they're probably going to push and try to rush and get these refurbishment projects completed. So that way people don't walk into the park and see scaffolding at least. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. Isn't it weird that just like a month ago we were discussing, when Disneyland reopens, everything will finally be refurbished. Haunted Mansion will be reopened. Snow White will be finished. Isn't that weird how... And now...
Yeah.
No construction
and now we
at
don't
all.
even really know. Yeah. This was great. This was like a little Alex in the parks. Alex flies over the park.
Alex, so you're in the helicopter right now.
Oh,
Wouldn't
I
that
thought
be
I was
something?
using my big ears to fly.
Was that a Dumbo reference, Alex?
Yes, Dumbo.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Alex the Historian, for providing this great video. Alex didn't film the video. Link will be in the description to the channel and the video itself, but for bringing this video to our attention today. Alex Over the Park is what this segment is called.
Alex, ooh.
What?
No, that was just really good.
Alex
That
Over
was really
the
clever.
Park.
I thought that was the name he was presenting. Like, Alex, ooh. I'm like, oh.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought that was really good.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm here all the afternoon for another 2.5 hours.
Alex Over the Park. I love
Alex
it. It's
Over
great.
the
Okay.
Park. Well, anyways, we do have some actual news stuff to get to here as well, and this was again brought to my attention by Mr. Alex the Historian, and I believe we've talked about Miss Abigail Disney at least 1 or 2 times on the show before. Very interesting gal. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown here on why you wanted to bring this discussion to everybody here today. But anyways, yeah, so she did go on a very interesting Twitter rant And I do have the tweets pulled up here. She did use, well, I guess she bleeped the F word. I was going to say she used some strong language, but she went ahead and censored herself here on Twitter. And yeah, so Abigail Disney, of course, as you guys know, granddaughter of Roy Disney, went on a very long tweet spree. When was this actually? This was the 21st, so it was a few days ago. Calling out Disney's decision to furlough cast members after the company paid dividends to shareholders and gave executives big bonuses. So, yeah, that's basically what Alex was talking about earlier there. And Jeremy, do you have any brief thoughts? Because we do have, oh God, we have a lot more stuff to get to.
I know.
we say every episode we're gonna try and make this episode shorter, but somehow, anyways,
somehow it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I basically, I mean, this kind of goes back to what Alex was saying. I basically, given what she said, it's difficult just given the state of the world that we're in right now, because I agree with like an asterisk, and then the asterisk at the bottom of the page is like, but it's also very complex and complicated because the company is losing a ton of money. But, you know, I think her concern, her critique, I should say, if we don't actually think it's a concern, the critique I think extends larger than just with Disney. You know, I think she's a harsh critic of the system in general. That would rather put an employee out of work. You know,
sure.
I'm sorry. That would like rather give, you know, make sure the executives get their pay, but not, you know, they're like employees who work extremely hard and stuff like that. So I definitely, there definitely, I think, needs to be a voice, you know, supporting the cast members and supporting the workers. And so I agree with her just objectively on that point in general. I also think there's reason to be upset with other outside forces than just Disney in regard to the way that workers are getting kind of the short end of the stick and a lot of what's going on during this quarantine. But yeah, that's kind of my general thought. I think she and I would tend to more politically align, but I mean, again, I can't speak to her character, but I do tend to somewhat agree with what she's saying. I do think it's a little more complicated than the way she paints it, though.
Sure. Alex, what about you?
No, yeah, I agree. It's way more complicated than how she paints it in this sense. And so I think that she's right in terms of, you know, furloughing cast members and yet not extending their pay when they're actually paying their executives these large amounts of money. But the thing is that there's more to it than that. There's more to it. There's the fact that you have executives who have taken major cuts on their pay. One executive we know of has stopped paying himself entirely.
Yeah,
and, you know, and so these things are, it's not that simple. It's easy to say, well, you know, we should just reallocate that money to paying the frontline cast members. Okay, but that doesn't really help anything. That doesn't make things better. You know, I think that she's trying to say that, you know, that these executives shouldn't be paid as much as they're being paid during this time, and I think she's right, but I don't think they're getting paid that much during this time. I think what's happening is that the company is trying to save that money for later, so that way their executives don't leave trying to look for another job. And so the thing is like anybody who is worried that their job is going to go away, especially the executives who, some of them are also being furloughed, they have no incentive to stay. They're basically not earning money and the company stocks are going down. So I think what Disney's trying to do is they're trying to save a stockpile of money for the essential executives that run the company, so that way they don't try to leave and get a different job. I think that's what's going on here.
At the end of the day, those executives are going to get their you know, are going to return to work, whereas a lot of the Disney employees are going to, the cast members are going to, their jobs are going to be weeded out to run the park more efficiently. And I think that that's a point of concern. And I actually think she should direct her energy also more toward just what the government can do more to safeguard workers from companies that do have to mitigate damage like this. Because unfortunately, large companies are not going to value their on the front lines employees more than their executives. It's a sad fact, but it's true. And so I wish she would be more vocal to what legislation can we pass in terms of public policy to safeguard workers and to get people back to work. I'd rather see her be an advocate for more of that than just calling out the company that she happens to be attached to by name. Although she does make a good point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, I agree with what you say. I think, yeah.
All right, well, unless you guys have any closing thoughts on Miss Abigail Disney here, I think...
Abigail
Disney. Do you guys have any closing thoughts you'd like to say on this topic?
I do not.
Okay, well, it is time, everybody, to move into this week's segment of news. I still don't have a proper name for this. You guys already know. News Roundup.
This week on Matterhorn Monday, Matt and company continue their reports and discussions on COVID-19 and its impact on the Disney company around the world.
Yeah.
So good.
People Mover.
Oh. Oof. All right.
All right. Well, yeah, we do have some interesting news here that I'm excited to get to. This first topic here comes to us from, let's see, what website? USA Today. And this is a financial analyst, I guess, trying to maybe predict when the U.S. parks might reopen. And then later on, we do also have some actually kind of big news, I feel like, at least in my opinion. Shanghai Disneyland could possibly be prepping to reopen their park sooner than a lot of us may have thought, so I'm excited to get into that. But first here, when will the Disney parks reopen? Financial analyst John, I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to try. Link is in the description, you guys, to all of the articles we refer to. But Mr. John Hadulik? I don't even... It doesn't sound like a...
We're not going to help you.
You're not going to... Okay, well... Anyways, he recently stated that he predicts the Disney parks will not reopen in 2020. He also speculated that speculated on the ability of the parks to turn the same profit they did pre-pandemic. And I do have a quote here that I'd like to read. Quote, "We believe parks profitability," pronounce that right there. "We believe parks' profitability will be impaired for a longer period of time given the lingering effects of the outbreak and now assume an opening date of January 1st as our best case," and that is January 1st of 2021. So next year. That said, the economic recession plus the need for social distancing, new health precautions, and the lack of travel and crowd aversion are likely to make this business less profitable until there is a widely available vaccine. Now, again, this is just something we touched on. Again, I believe Jeremy and I touched on this last week as well. And Alex, do you have any, before we continue on, do you have any brief thoughts on what Mr. John, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, on what he is predicting here, a possible reopening date of January 1st of 2021?
No, I don't. I mean, I can't contradict what a financial analyst says, but I mean, it's like I can't compete with that. But I don't believe that is accurate. It's just like even for the after effects and all that, I don't believe it'll take till that long. Maybe November at worst, but I really don't believe January. And then on top of that, it's kind of like there's a lot going on in the country right now in terms of how people are accepting this, self-quarantining and social distancing thing.
Yeah.
I don't believe that we'll be able to stay social distanced for very long based off of,
Sure.
certain certain things. I can't say it, but yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, what about you before we continue?
Again, I can't, contradict the financial analyst as Alex said, but I also it also does echo an opinion that I've actually been talking about on the show, but I actually, it's not that I don't find it accurate. But I find it to be entirely in the realm of possibility, especially with at least Los Angeles mayor saying, yeah, we're going to start to slowly reopen the economy, but don't expect, outside physical social life to be even remotely the same until the beginning through the spring of 2021. And I think he was emphasizing mass public gatherings, which theme parks I would assume fall under. And I think January 1st is actually within the realm of possibility in terms of reopening the parks because of that. It'll depend on speaking for California, I know in Florida they really don't want to confront COVID-19 as an actual as a threat, but it's really complicated, and we learn more information and our opinions grow and change on COVID-19 and social distancing as each week goes, and there's new. I mean that's as each day goes, which is actually a good thing, because it should mean that we're embracing science and we're listening to our scientists. And when you listen to the medical experts, they'll tell you there's no pride in the medical profession. You make one conclusion, and the next day something could prove it wrong, and you just got to go with the flow and roll with the punches. So one week you learn one thing, and the next week you may learn something that entirely contradicts what you learned last week. And so I think with each week, our opinions about social distancing change, our opinions about different things change. And listen, I think at this point, we need to open up the economy as soon as possible. There's no doubt about that. But there's certain things that have to be done in order to make sure that we can open it up as soon as possible. And so it's it's a complicated process. But I don't think that January 1st is an absurd estimation. Actually,
sure.
I think it's actually within the realm of possibility. That's not an estimate for opening the economy. It's an estimate for being able to go to a theme park and be in a packed place with a lot of people.
Yeah, and continuing on as well, another analyst, Alexia. Again, these people have some
the historian
Alexia, some great last names here. Alexia Quadrani. The best I can do, you guys. I'm so sorry if either of these people are listening. If you're new to the show, if they are, I'm not the best when it comes to pronouncing words or last names. But from JP Morgan, Alexia commented on the likelihood of much lower attendance with heavy travel restrictions in place. International visitors are much less likely to visit the parks, leading to a possible 20% drop in attendance. And there's also lots of other issues that plague reopening the parks, and I'm going to quote here as well from this article. Quote, theme park resorts are not just rides, but hotels, sit-down dining, fast foods, nightclubs, retail, and TV and film production all have different requirements for operating safely before the virus is contained, including logistical considerations for screening not only employees but visitors. And there's also the issue of taming long, separate lines not conducive to social distancing. So yeah, another addition to throw in here. And again, I feel like we should disclaim this every single time we talk about this broad subject. We're not experts. The three of us here don't claim to be experts in this kind of stuff. We can make our predictions. We can, discuss along with what the experts are saying as well. We can include our thoughts on that, whether or not we agree with them.
If anything, view us as a surrogate of everyone watching. I mean, we are learning this information along with all of you. We are everyday people, processing this whole crisis, in real time along with you. So we just bring our personal opinion about what is going on in the world. We don't. I just want to make sure that we're not. You don't view us as like experts on coronavirus.
That's not what we are. Please, I don't know. I'm dumb, you guys. But. Anyways, well, before we move on, do you guys have any brief thoughts you'd like to rebuttal here to, I mean, just basically what they said, the hotel, sit-down dining, fast food, all that kind of stuff, not just the rides, not just the lines in the theme park. You do have to take account, of course, for all these other types of social interactions in the park and how maybe Disney will be handling that going forward, because like we did talk last week, Jeremy and I sort of pitched our ideas on how the parks might change when they eventually reopen in the midst of this whole social distancing mindset, in the midst of this whole, just the whole mindset is of everybody in the entire world. So, Alex, what do you have? What are your thoughts here before we move on?
I don't have any thoughts on that.
That's okay. Jeremy, do you have any thoughts you'd like to say?
Listen, I know there's a lot of talk about when the Disney parks reopen, will people even want to go? Yeah, I do, actually. The fact that we can open up the beaches and they're like filled right away. I think the first day that the Disney parks open, whether it's safe to do so or not, it's going to be one of the most packed days the park has ever seen. People you'd like to believe that it's changed our like consideration for like public health and stuff like that, and that we might be like scarred. I think we'll be scarred. We are going to be scarred, like maybe deeper psychologically, definitely financially. But in terms of wanting to get out and like go back into our normal lives, people are going to do that in 0.2 seconds.
Sure.
I really don't think the social fabric of how we view interaction is going to change as much as even Iger is predicting it is. So, but that same time, Iger might be considering that because he's the one who's been like, we might have to take extreme precautions to ensure that people, if we do open, sooner rather than later, that people understand that there is still the virus out there. We don't want a second wave that could be deadlier than the first. So I think that's why he's been really outspoken about like the temperature checks and stuff, which I know I was critical about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
+1 clout for J-Dog, says Nate in chat.
+1 clout. Clout points.
How do Alex and I get clout
clout
points? I want some clout points. Well, anyways, it's time.
0 clout. You don't gain clout by saying something you agree with. I mean, we don't have any. Neither one of the three of us have any clout.
That's true. Jeremy has 1 now. Alex and I are sitting at 0.
We offer our opinion and our advice and our knowledge and love of Disney.
Yeah.
And maybe we have clout in that sense.
Matt, you don't deserve clout points. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's true.
I'll make my own clout points. But anyways, we do have a few voicemails I'd like to get here before we move on. One is from Avery, and he said in chat, he left 3 voicemails. He said not to listen to the first one, to listen to the second and third. So we'll take a listen here to his first, I guess his second voicemail here. Let's see what this is.
Naughty Bean, I can call you now? That's swell. I can't wait to take you to Potato Land next week. Did I mention I'm not wearing any pronouns right now? Wish.
I think he was supposed to be mocking the nighttime Disney call things that we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
That was sort of taken out
now
of context.
I get it.
Yeah, it was
I get it.
Out of context. But we do have another voicemail to get here too from Avery as well. Let's take a listen here.
The parks will have to reopen before 2021. If they don't open before 2021, then Disney will have both risk of bankruptcy and a takeover, like that Apple takeover you talked about a while ago. Remember that? Yeah, that could happen. That takeover could happen. Remember, it makes me think, it reminds me of the 80s. Like when Disney was at its low point, and then someone had to step in. Or there's been several takeover attempts, right? It's back to that again. an actual boogaloo time. That's what this is. I mean, it's still, so even when the parks open before 2021, it still won't feel the same. Like, it'll be like the effect of 9/11 on Disney. It'll be that again, where the crowds, where it's going to take a while for the Disney parks to go back to the way they were before they closed. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It looks like Star Wars Hotel becoming the current Pop Century Legendary years. Looks like that's going to happen, but I really doubt that this article is true. I really doubt that it's going to, that they're going to keep the parks closed until 2021. It just doesn't seem right that Disney would do that. And not to mention Josh, Glorious Josh, is on the Florida reopening team, so I have faith in him. I don't think they're going to keep the parks open. They're going to keep the parks closed until 2021. I think before then. I'm going to guess maybe June. That's my guess.
So Avery guesses June as to when the parks will reopen. Yeah, he does bring up a good point there as well in discussion of maybe a takeover possibly coming in the future. He referenced back in the 80s, as well as the rumor that we discussed a while back about maybe Apple wanting to buy Disney, which was kind of outlandish. But yeah, I mean, that all of this is really in the, I mean, anything really is in the realm of possibility at this point. We don't know what is going on in the world as it is. Things are going crazy, but yeah, so thank you, Mr. Avery, for leaving. He said in chat that was his Goofy impression in the first one, so I guess, yeah, that was the context for that one. But we do, before we move on to Attraction Retrospective, which I'm excited to get to, you guys, we do have one final topic here that that I'm actually excited for this one. This has to do with Shanghai Disneyland possibly looking to reopen their parks in the coming future. Shanghai Disneyland has begun testing a reopening strategy following social distancing. Reportedly, parades and castle shows, are being tested, as well as strategies for waiting in line and sitting in theaters. Now, as you can see here in these pictures that I'm going to show you, there's this one here of guests. I guess this is sort of like a test. I don't know how this kind of stuff works, but from the description here of the picture, it looks as if there's maybe a couple groups of maybe, I don't know, cast members who work at the parks who are, playing as guests to go into the parks to try and test things out, maybe test some of the new policies they put in place, and as well as this picture that I just switched from before. I guess this is sort of a line. As you can see, it says, I can't actually read what it says. It says, "Please do not stand here." I guess they're trying to spread out people in the lines, as you can see here. So, and I do feel like this is very interesting to me, because when was the first time, I can't even remember, it feels like it's been years, when we first even talked about Shanghai Disney, or the China parks in general, closing their doors. I believe it was maybe February, late February, early March. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was late January.
Was it late January? Wow. It's been almost 4 months. Well, Alex, what are your thoughts here on Shanghai Disneyland running through these, I guess, sort of tests to see maybe will these new rules that they've been putting in place, I mean, as you can see here from this picture, they're trying to spread out people in the lines. What are your thoughts here about Shanghai Disney possibly reopening before maybe even the U.S. parks, it feels like, from this?
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know what I think as to whether it will work or not, or whether it's a good idea or not, but
Here it comes.
So I think it's, I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's a good idea in the sense that they'll need to know, is it possible to social distance people in a theme park? Which I know to a lot of people might sound like easy, but it's not. It's really not easy. I mean, every ride you go on, you're touching the lap bars, and you're touching the handles and everything, and the seat belts and stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't even know myself if it's possible to social distance while in a theme park.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think that certainly Shanghai is trying to figure out that answer. So, good on them, but I hope nothing bad comes of it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, what about you?
We don't know a date. Sorry. We don't know a date yet, right?
No,
Like
not
when they're
from what I've
planning on
seen,
reopening?
at least.
Cool. Well, I think it's if they are, let's say they're going to open in a month, the thing. I mean, like if they closed in January, I mean that's kind of a good litmus test to see when we might possibly start rethinking opening our parks. Which, if that's the case, it's not going to be June.
Yeah.
For us. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, China has been going through this far longer than the United States, so they're able to slowly start reopening things in phases. Some places are starting to experiment with opening some things, but I wouldn't say that we're in phase 1 of reopening stuff quite yet. We're approaching it. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. I mean, they're definitely going to try to use that as a litmus, like a test for how to possibly enforce some level of social distancing in the parks. And then hopefully by the time we start to slowly maybe open our parks here, there'll be a tried and true method of policies in the post-COVID-19 world.
Yeah, and you guys even just asked, is it even possible to social distance in a theme park? That is, I guess, sort of the question that all of this revolves around, because like we touched earlier, you have dining tables, 4 people per table, with like hundreds of tables, almost maybe, in a certain restaurant. Of course, the lines as well. It'll be, I don't know, again, we're talking in circles here from the past few weeks, but it'll be very interesting to see, at least from these tests that do come out of Shanghai Disney, to see how they have, or how they're maybe planning on handling the lines, how they're maybe planning on handling the dining, the hotels, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I want Disneyland to reopen, you guys. That's basically.
I mean, we all want
thoughts here.
The places we love to reopen. We all want to go about our normal lives, but the fact of the matter is, it's going to take time and patience on our end, on our everyday lives, and it's going to take the work of the government to get their act together and make sure that testing is huge in order to, if you want the economy to reopen really fast, you should be, really an advocate for making sure that there's a plan in your state, because the federal government has decided it's not their responsibility. That your state government is really on board with antibody tests. I know New York has been doing antibody tests, and those results have been starting to come back. So that's good news for New Yorkers. They're finding out who can go back to work, and I will see what's up with there. But every state needs to be able to have access to that, so they know who's immune and who can get back to work. And the sooner we do stuff like that, the sooner we'll be able to reopen the things we love. So with that, I'm just starving to hear about Puckermint.
Guys, it's time to go into our ad break here. And after that, we're going to be getting into our Attraction Retrospective. And like I said, I'm very excited to get into this week's Attraction Retrospective. Like I said, this was sort of a landslide winner from our Twitter poll. And if you'd like to participate in which attraction does, I guess I'll get into that after. But guys, we'll be right back after we hear a word from the show's sponsors. If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live. And since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and puckermint on Instagram. And we're back, guys. Did you happen to go to puckermint.com and use code MMDays for 15% off your purchase? I did, just in that ad break. If you guys didn't, I don't know what you're doing. But anyways, it's time for the our brand new segment to the show, Attraction Retrospective. And if you guys would like to participate in which attraction does get featured here in our show for our retrospective, you can follow my Twitter at MatterhornMatt. Yeah, I tweet out a poll of which attraction we would like to talk about today. And this week, I think I had Small World. I had, I should probably know this. I had Small World up there, as well as Submarine Voyage. I threw in there because I couldn't think of another one. But
that's good. That's good.
Disneyland Railroad, you guys, 55.3% of the votes. Small World, 20.2%. And Submarine Voyage, 24.5%. Guys, what's the hate with Small World? You guys would rather us talk about the Submarine Voyage over Small World?
But it's fine. So the way this works, so now that we've chosen the Railroad, Submarine Voyage and Small World will still be up there for you guys to vote for next week. And we're going to add another attraction in there as the third option. And we'll see what wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, spoiler alert, it's the Disneyland Railroad this week, you guys. That we're going to be talking about for our Attraction Retrospective. Now, this will be a very great conversation because, as I'm sure you guys know very well, Alex is an avid fan of the Disneyland Railroad and just railroads in general, as well as Jeremy is a big fan of, I believe, both. I mean, I guess we're all big fans of the railroad and just railroads in general. When I was a kid,
it's a must every time I go to the park.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. When I was a kid, I had a fascination with trains, but that didn't really translate into my sort of adulthood like it has for a lot of you guys. It sort of fell off for me. But yeah, I always wanted to go on a train. I think I've only been on a train, well, besides the Disneyland train, like once before. So don't have a lot of expertise when it comes to this kind of stuff, but the Disneyland Railroad, you guys, that is something that I'm sure all three of us can talk to at length, but we're going to try and contain this conversation so we don't ramble on for another 4 hours, because I'm sure we could all talk about the Disneyland Railroad at length for many hours, but let's go ahead and get right into this discussion. Now, I guess I can I'll lead off here. I'll start first here. So
yeah.
Let's start with Alex here first. We'll start with the easy question. Why do you love the Disneyland Railroad as much as you do?
Honestly, that is not an easy question because I really don't know. I can tell you that it looks cool. I can tell you that it's fun to ride and it's scenic and the train and looks neat, but honestly there is no words to describe it. I've developed a kind of obsession with steam trains, and it doesn't make sense to most people, but I mean, I guess the best thing you can compare it to is those people who know Klingon, who can speak Klingon, and it's like they can't explain why they love it so much, but they do, and so that's just what it's kind of like for me. And I know a whole lot about steam trains and Disneyland Railroad.
All right, Jeremy, what about you? Why do you love the Disneyland Railroad so much?
Yeah, it's funny because you think objectively that's an easy question to ask, but actually, it's hard to answer why you love anything that you love. Why you became interested in something, or why the passions are. I mean, you can go through, like, I was introduced to it at a certain age, and you get attached to something, but deep down, why you love something, I mean, it's a difficult thing to answer. I mean, I've been going. I guess I just attach it to my love for Disneyland, and I go on it every time I go there. There's something really great about going around the park and seeing everything. I also just have I think my fixation with trains and rides and stuff like that has to do with, like, I love tracked vehicles for some weird reason. It's very specific, but I love things that are on a track. Weird. Can't explain that one. And it probably begins with trains, obviously, but I don't know. I love the Disneyland Railroads. It is it's a ride that I think ultimately, out of all the rides, really makes you feel like you're at Disneyland.
Sure.
It's very
yeah.
specific. It almost is Disneyland.
Yeah.
In a weird way. And I think that, that's why it feels like a staple for so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I feel like there are only certain rides that you can say, oh, this ride makes me feel like I'm at Disneyland, and the railroad is, for me, as well, one of those ones. So I guess where do we continue on this discussion here? Alex, would you like to give maybe a rundown of maybe the history of the Disneyland Railroad?
Sure. Well,
let's do that in little segments. So
okay.
Alex, how did it all begin? Why is there a railroad in Disneyland?
The age-old question.
So there's a railroad in Disneyland because Walt Disney loved trains. It started out, when he worked for a railroad as a news butch, and he just got the train bug. And then when he got older, he eventually created his own backyard railroad called the Carrollwood Pacific. And he used to offer train rides to everybody in the neighborhood. Anybody that showed up on the weekends, he would, run the trains for them, and they got to ride. And it was so popular that during the planning stages for Disneyland, he said, we have to have a little train for people to ride, and it would take the stress off of having to host it at his house every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So they eventually built the Disneyland Railroad, and yeah.
Yeah, it's my understanding that he loved trains when he was little, but it's something that kind of fell off for him. And then it was a certain animator that brought that interest back to life for him. Alex, do you want to speak to that?
Well, it was quite a few animators, really. I mean, I guess.
Oh, really?
I guess if you would, yeah.
I was thinking of Ward.
Oh yeah, you could say that about Ollie Johnston. You can say that about Roger Brody, and I forget the guy's last name, but Val, and yeah. So anyway, well, I mean, it was a bunch of these people that sparked it again, because you see, okay, the first person that kind of reintroduced it to Walt was Ollie Johnston, because Ollie Johnston brought in a model train of his. He had a little model train that he had in his house, and he brought it into work one day to show his coworkers, and Walt saw it, and he talked about model trains, and Walt wanted to get a model train. So Walt eventually built a model train set in his office. And from there, Ollie was like, hey, there's some other people here that really like trains too, like Ward Kimball. And so he talked to Ward Kimball, and Ward Kimball was into full-size trains and stuff. And Ward Kimball wanted to go to, different train shows and things. But yeah, there was a good 10 different legends that were all into trains, and they were all in this big group.
Oh, wow,
isn't that something?
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's really interesting, because the story that's so often told is that Walt was really kind of going through a tough period, and Ward Kimball invited him to take him to a train show or train convention, and then it really re-inspired Walt with his obsession with trains. But it makes sense that it would be more than one person as well. I love that. When was that when did Ollie Johnson do you know approximately when that model thing?
I want to say just before the war years.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Great. How much did the Carlwood Pacific really? Because the idea of a park had been in Walt's mind ever since the success of Snow White. And how much did the Carlwood Pacific and trains in particular really bring him back to making a park, and how did that affect the Disneyland that we know today?
I didn't quite understand the question.
How much did the Carlwood Pacific and trains make Disneyland more of a priority for him than the idea of a small park had in the past?
Oh, well, Well, I mean, I would say really I would say really it wasn't the Carolwood Pacific that made Disneyland's trains more important. It was probably more the ideas that he was creating for the Mickey Mouse park that led him to put more emphasis on the train. Because when he was designing the Mickey Mouse park for Burbank, it was, again, like I said, it was to help it so Disney fans who came to visit, they would have this official Disney train to ride as opposed to going to his backyard to ride it on limited days. And so when Walt was hosting like a bunch of different like parties at the studio, he brought his train in to the studio and he ran it around the studio lots, and it just became like this big thing, and everybody kept telling him, you got to have a real place where people can sit down and ride this thing and just enjoy it, where there's like scenery and stuff. And so he really thought, well, we are doing that. And so it basically, it just occurred to him that there was really more to this train thing than he thought. Like, he thought it would just be this cheap amusement that the park might have, as, alongside its much other, cool things. But when they were actually designing the 60-acre property in Anaheim, a bunch of the Imagineers were telling him, well, it can't be this little 1/8 scale train. It's got to be something that can really hold a lot of people, because we're thinking that there's going to be a lot of people riding this. And so it took off even before it began. That's what I find interesting. So like they designed this 1/3 scale train that they were going to put in the park, but then after more and more interest poured in over this idea of a railroad that circled his park, they kind of realized we need something bigger than 1/3 scale. So finally you get what you have now, which is 5/8 scale. And it holds the average amount of guests of about 200 to 250 people on a fully loaded train. So, and even today, if you think about it, well, up until, the coronavirus thing, the train was getting, completely filled up, and there were lines going out the gates.
Huge.
It's
I remember. Yeah.
And it's
during
to
the
ride
holidays. I've never seen. Exactly. During the holidays, this past holidays, I'd never seen lines for the train that huge before. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing how much people love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt, do you have any questions? I'm like running out of.
Well, yeah, it is very interesting how we consider that the train is one of those staple attractions that does make you feel like you're in Disneyland. We were talking about the long lines for the train. What is it about the train that you guys maybe think makes this attraction just the staple of Disneyland? I guess I can go ahead and open up here. It is the first thing that you see when you enter the park gates. The train station is there, the train depot's there, the train is up front. I mean, if you time it right, the train will be there up front. It's the first thing really that you see when you enter the park. That's for me one of the things that does make this a big staple for me. When you think of the train, you do think of Disneyland. Alex, what about you? What makes this train so special that it does bring back a lot of these memories of Disneyland for a lot of people?
I think that the train has always been like a source of comfort when I'm at Disneyland, it's what I think of, when I remember Disneyland, and it's one of those nostalgic things where I can recall, even to my earliest days of ever visiting Disneyland, always riding the train, as well as the fact that the train is comfortable in the sense that when the park is overcrowded, at least once you wait in line for the train, you can stay on as long as you want.
Yeah.
And, I've ridden the train with friends and stuff, and, and we would just fall asleep on the train. It was just this wonderful thing. And I have to agree with what you said about, when people go to the entrance of Disneyland, the train is the first thing they see. And I think that was important to Walt too. I mean, think about it. Like, what theme park besides Disney has a train at the entrance?
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, even Knott's Berry Farm, which had a train long before Disneyland, theirs is tucked in the back corner of the park, And so it's like Walt knew that this train was going to be something romantic, something, something that people look forward to getting on and riding. And I have to say, I think what makes the Disneyland Railroad so much more special than other theme park trains is how beautiful it looks. You know, a lot of people will mention how a lot of trains and stuff, they're almost always all black, you know, and they're covered in soot and dirt and everything like that. And the cars are really like, you know, just destroyed looking. But the Disneyland Railroad always looks like it was built yesterday. It just looks like it's pristine and brand new, like a brand new car. And so I think that's one of the things I love about it so much, is that it kind of breaks that mold of what a theme park train is.
Sure. Yeah, Jeremy, what about you?
I love that. Yeah, it's almost like it's a it's like how you, when you're a child and you're obsessed with trains, you look past the soot and the you know, the coal and the dirty, and you know, it's almost like Disneyland represents the train that you loved when you were a kid.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of interesting. But I think it absolutely has to do with, I think, that opening almost shot in a way of you walk in past the gates and there is the train station and the train coming by. It's like, it's the image that's literally sets up the rest of your Disneyland experience. It's the first thing you see. And I think because of that, it feels like the train almost is Disneyland in a way. It's like, because when you walk in and you see the train station and it says Disneyland on it and the train comes by, it's almost like it's saying like, you're here, you know? And so I think for many people, the train represents that. And of course it goes around the perimeter. You get to see the park. I love rides like that are just kind of like, you can sit back, relax, take in views. You know, going around the rivers of America is just one of my absolute all-time favorite things in any theme park. And I even like when you go to Toontown Depot and if you know you're further up, I like sitting there and looking out at that section of Fantasyland and hearing the Small World area music. Maybe the clock happens to be going off, seeing the Matterhorn in the background. I love that. And I usually like to go on around sun is starting to set, and it's so peaceful. It's the best. It's that, I don't know, it's just special. That's special. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I can only describe it in the imagery.
I think one of the things too that I feel like other Disney parks haven't really captured about their railroads is that there's something about Disneyland's train which is exactly how scenic it is. Almost everywhere around the whole route, there's something to look at. There's something to see. And especially on the west side of the park, like Jeremy said, going around the rivers of America, that's probably the most scenic part of the whole train. Beautiful. And and it's gorgeous. It looks like a natural landscape. And even though it's not, for those that can't get past that, it's still beautiful in its own way. You know, it's almost like you're getting to ride through, you know, like your great grandfather's model train layout. You know, it's like being on an actual. And you know, I think it's funny that now that I think of it, now that I just said that, that's probably what Walt's idea was because I mean, if you think about it, remember how I was just talking about how they were trying to figure out how big the train should be so that it could hold as many passengers as possible. They could have easily put a full-size train on the Disneyland Railroad. The only reason why they didn't is because Walt insisted it be miniature. You know, he felt that, you know, that the train has to have this charm to it. And there's something that is just not charming about this hulking giant beastly monster of a steam locomotive. He wanted something that looked cute and quaint, and I agree, you know. And so I think like the other Disney parks like Magic Kingdom and, you know, and Disneyland Paris, you know, they have beautiful trains in their own right, but the problem is that there's usually only one scenic area on the whole route, and then the rest of it is just all backstage stuff or grassy lawns. There's really nothing to look at. So,
And speaking of which, let's talk about the largest diorama in the world. My favorite thing, and one of my favorite things in the park. The Grand Canyon and Primeval World. So let's talk a little background about that, Alex, if you want to lead off on that conversation.
Sure. So, After the park opened, the train was becoming very, very popular, and people were treating it less and less like a ride and more like something that they do to, like, almost like an excursion, really. And so, and back then the trains only had one stop and all that. But after Walt and the rest of the Imagineers got a feel for how people felt about the train, they realized there's something more to this. And so not only did they add more stops, but Walt felt like, well, the last stop would be Main Street, and that was where people might get off at. And so he felt that the train, as grand and beautiful as it is, the last thing you see when you're on the train is just going through this area with trees and grass. And he felt like that's not very climatic. That's not very, like, that doesn't end it on a high note. And so he thought, we got to put something there that will, that will make people want to ride all the way around and, see this grand finale. So he had a bunch of Imagineers, including Claude Coates, design something, and it turned out they actually had a need to build a brand new Cassimber locker room building, including a costume building for the Cassimbers that work in the park. And they said, well, why don't we build it all in one building? We'll have the Cassimber facilities on one side of the building. The other side would be this big diorama. So they created the Grand Canyon diorama, which it's about 300 feet long. And on the back wall is this giant hand-painted painting that is 306 feet long by 34 feet high, of the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And so, yeah, it was just like this huge, amazing thing. And back then, it was the largest diorama in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you gonna say? Something?
No, I mean, if you were gonna keep going.
Oh yeah, I was gonna keep going about the primeval world.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna tell you to do.
Okay, so when the World's Fair ended and Walt was bringing back a bunch of attractions that he had built there, one of the things he wanted to do was bring over Ford's Magic Skyway, but that would have been the most expensive thing of all because it was just so huge. But even though he realized he couldn't bring back the whole attraction, he wanted to bring back the dinosaurs. And so he was having Imagineers try to create like a ride around the dinosaurs, but it just, none of it worked, and so funny enough, they needed a much larger administration building for Disneyland and more facilities. And so they decided to do what they did several years earlier and just go, well, why don't we build a diorama for the dinosaurs, and then on the other side would be the administration building. And so they built this massive warehouse type building, and it's located literally right across the service road from the Grand Canyon, and there's a wooden bridge that connects both buildings together. So that's why there's a big dark gap between the Grand Canyon and the primeval world. You're actually crossing over a bridge. But yes, so the primeval world diorama ended up being bigger than the Grand Canyon diorama. It was 410 feet long, and its depth was approximately 50 to 60 feet, depending on what part of the diorama you're in. And so to this day, the primeval world diorama itself is the world's largest diorama, both by length and by square foot space that it takes up. And all the dinosaurs were placed in there in, a very specific orientation, so that way they could kind of tell like a little story. And just like the Grand Canyon, where in the Grand Canyon diorama you enter the canyon at dawn and leave at dusk, you do the same thing for the primeval world. You enter at dawn and leave at dusk. And so I thought that was really interesting. That's something not a lot of people pick up on. But
oh wow,
yeah. And the dinosaurs, it's funny that the primeval world diorama shouldn't be there anymore. There's been so many times where they wanted to replace it with something else. Yeah, and they just never have. And it's for various reasons. Some Imagineers were trying to protect it, or sometimes it was a single person trying to protect it, because they felt like this is something that Walt really wanted, and both of these dioramas should stay. But yeah, I mean, I think the battle for keeping it is never ending, honestly.
Isn't that interesting? One of the best
funny
parts
because
of the ride.
Yeah, and even people who aren't like, these kind of self-proclaimed Disney historians or people who do this as a hobby, they love that the primeval world. I mean, it's sort of it's this constant kind of philosophical battle between the idea of like people who really radically think Disneyland there's no historical value in it at all. I mean, that's not true. There's no but it's genuinely not a museum. Anything that's in there that's showcased should not be revered, and if something gets taken away, oh well, whatever. It's a theme park, not a museum. But I don't know. I mean, now that it's pushing 65, it's difficult because there is a lot that is of historical importance in this park, and so I think it's hard to find that fine line of, yes, Disneyland should never be complete and there should always be new and exciting things in the park. But at the same time, there are some experiences that are just so historically important that I can't in good conscience, advocate for their removal. And the primeval world is really one of them. Not only is it a peek into a bit of Ford's Magic Skyway in the World's Fair, it also is one of those things that just so significantly has Walt's stamp on it that it's hard to remove something like that.
Well, I think there was one thing that happened last year that really just I felt it in my heart. And I think what it was it was so last year in spring, the trains were going through the primeval world diorama, and you could see that a lot of the dinosaurs' skins had ripped. They just, they wear out every 6 months to a year. Those skins just eventually wear out and rip, and they have to replace them. And so they ended up closing the primeval world diorama for, I want to say, 2 months to just rehab the whole darn thing, right? And so I had this big fear because I was like, oh great, I up until that point I had always felt no one really cared about the dioramas.
Yeah.
Because you go on the ride and you're bound to hear someone go, oh, those don't look like real dinosaurs, or oh geez, they move so slowly. Like someone needs to replace.
I challenge someone to not go in there and go not go, wow. I think it's still thrilling. I don't know.
But what had happened was they put this big black curtain around the whole primeval world segment, and they stopped playing, the music and stuff on some of the trains. And I remember the first time I got to see it with the black curtains up and stuff, we were going through, and as soon as the announcer had announced that the primeval world diorama was not in operation, the dinosaurs were on vacation, you could hear the whole train. Everybody was like, "Oh no!" And
right?
and then and kids were crying because they couldn't see the dinosaurs. And so it had really changed my mind, because all this time I had been worried that no one liked it anymore because it was old. But then here's this whole train of people, in an uproar that they couldn't see these, 55-year-old dinosaurs. And
right.
So when the primeval world reopened, I was there the day that it reopened, and the lines for the stations were just crazy long because everyone wanted to get back on the train and see the dinosaurs again. I thought that was amazing.
I love that. It also very much reminds me of every time I go in the Tiki Room. Packed house, audience participating, singing along, clapping. It thrills me every time. But
before we do,
but here's the
continue,
sorry,
though, we do have a voicemail that I would like to get to here.
Good for you, Matt.
I'm taking charge here, you guys.
You better. Yeah, let's go through those voicemails.
All right, so this voicemail is 57 seconds long. It doesn't have a transcript here, so I'm not sure what this says, but someone did in chat. Ryan said he sent the voicemail, so I'm assuming this is from Ryan. So let's go and take a listen to what Mr. Ryan has to say here about, it might be about the Disneyland Railroad. Let's take a listen.
Hey, I think the thing that makes the Disneyland Railroad really fantastic is the fact that
Somewhere there.
the fact that it's such a big, really rocking cars. I think the thing that got me so interested in the train, especially the Disney was from a show. I don't know if you've seen it before.
Okay, well, it appears that this voicemail, I don't know, it was happening the same with Avery. I don't know if it's something with on your guys' end or if it's something on my end, but the voicemail was very quiet. Turned up
I could not
all the way.
Hear that.
I'm sure Ryan had some amazing thoughts. So Ryan, if you would not mind sending that voicemail, yeah, if you would not mind resending that voicemail there, we will take a listen here. But yeah, it happened the same with Avery as well. But yeah, Jeremy, I'm sure you did have something else that you were going to say until we get back to that.
I forget actually. No, actually I do remember. I'm sure it no, even if the public, the Disneyland going public loves the Primeval World, I wouldn't put it past Disney to still get rid of it.
Yeah. It is it is one of those things where it takes up a lot of space. How big did Alex say it was you didn't say 600 feet. I must have misheard that, right?
No, the Grand Canyon is 300 feet long,
okay,
and the Primeval World is 410 feet long.
Oh, so combined. Oh my gosh, I guess I didn't realize how actually. That's okay. That puts that into perspective. That's a lot of space. Well, anyways, yeah. Continue on with what Jeremy said. That it is I guess good space for maybe a future attraction or something. But it is very interesting how Alex said that when it went down, people were crying, and then when the announcer said that there were no dinosaurs because it was under refurb, and then like he said, when it came back, the line was long. So I do feel like it is one of those ones that might be on Disney's sort of safe list that they would maybe not remove. But again, you never know. Honestly, you never know.
I don't think that they consider that for a safe list or not. I mean, there's so many attractions that have huge followings that they get rid of and stuff like that. And I just think what I've learned, I know like all these radical decisions have felt normal, but if there was anything I learned back in like 2015, 16, even 17, is that like nothing is safe.
It's true.
It's just something that I've felt ever since that summer. I think in 2016, where just so much news dropped about what was possibly on the chopping block that I was like, what? No. And then next year, all of it was true. And then I was like, all right, lesson learned. Nothing is safe under this leadership. Yeah.
Well, Ryan did resend his voicemail, and I took a short listen.
Check it out.
And it is way better. So let's go ahead and hear what Mr. Ryan has to say about the Disneyland Railroad. Let's see here.
Hey, Matt. I'm sorry for the for probably being quiet. I don't think you probably heard what I said. So as I was saying, so what I meant to say was that the Disneyland Railroad, I'll give my thoughts on it. So the Disneyland Railroad, I think what it makes it so good is that it just when I look at it, it feels like the one that probably was there on day one of Disneyland. I like the trains. I like the Primeval World, and like how like the dinosaurs look like they're actually real. Well, they're animatronics, but they feel like they're actually real when you look closely at it. So I think the thing that got me interested in this ride was based off of a train show called Thomas the Tank Engine. So I don't know if you heard it, but but that's where I got
Oh, yeah.
like that's where I really fell in love with this attraction, and it just made this like ride so good. Like I just like once I went to the parks or when I visited the train for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like probably one of the coolest things I'm gonna give this a ride. And boy, did I like it so much. I just kept on going on it over and over and over and over and over again. And like you know, like half of my day would just be riding the train. It's just so freaking awesome, man. So yeah, it was really cool. I'll probably continue watching the live stream, man.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ryan, for that great voicemail. It's nice to see. I think this is one of those rides where universally it's loved by every single. I mean, I'm sure there's a few outliers out there where you can pinpoint something like that, but I feel like this attraction is one of those where it is universally loved by almost every Disney fan, almost every theme park fan out there. And before we do move on, we do have one final, or maybe not final, we do have one more voicemail here that I'd like to get to from Mr. Brett himself. So let's take a listen here to what Brett has to say about the Disneyland Railroad.
What's up, you guys? It's Brett. I mean, I got to give some thoughts on the train. I mean, that is it's dear to all of our hearts. But I mean, how about that song when you're going through the diorama, the Grand Canyon Suite on the Trail song? I mean, it's no Dick Dale, but it is a legendary song. All right, boys. Shoo.
Thank you, Mr. Brett, for that voicemail.
I'm a huge fan of classical music, and especially the American classical artists. And the Grand Canyon Suite is a fantastic piece of music. You should definitely, I recommend everybody listen to the whole thing. What's heard in the ride is even just a condensed version of a movement of that suite. So great piece of music. I agree. And
You want to know a fun fact about that?
Yeah.
So ever since the Grand Canyon opened, they have played the different parts of the, like you said, a condensed version of the Grand Canyon Suite inside that diorama. And before they had it on the actual train, it was played through speakers along the walls of the diorama. So it was on loop. So that way the train, it wasn't timed, it was on loop. But and then when they eventually put it on the train, they had to actually rescore it because it didn't fit. It wasn't specially timed. So technically there's like a part of the music where it kind of goes dark and you hear these heavy drums, and that's supposed to line up with the scene of the diorama where there's lightning, and a storm and all that. So they actually rescored it in order for all that to line up properly. And and then
of course,
and then the Primeval World didn't always have music. What it had was just the sounds of the dinosaurs. But around the time that they put the Grand Canyon music on the actual train, they also added the song or the theme song of Mysterious Island onto the train as well. And ever since then, it's just those two musical tracks have just really gone well with the dioramas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It basically it's for the Grand Canyon. It starts with On the Trail, and then when it gets to the storm, it actually I think moves to a different movement of the piece in general, and goes back to that I think second or third movement. Anyway, nobody cares. I do. Alex does. I do.
I care.
Well, I guess we can try and maybe round off this discussion here. What do you? How should we close this discussion? Because we've talked about how it feels to us. We've talked about how it makes guests who visit the park feel. The first thing that they see is, of course, that Disneyland Railroad.
Right.
Alex, how would you? You look like you had something to say. How would you like to round off this discussion here?
We could round it off with a lightning round of fun facts.
Yay! Let's do it. Lightning round of fun facts about the train.
Disneyland Railroad has 4 trains, but 5 locomotives to pull them. It goes around a 1.20 mile loop around the park with only one major left-hand turn on the main line. It had one roundhouse where they stored up to 3 trains, but now today it has a roundhouse that can store 4 trains and all 5 locomotives with the monorails up above. The Disneyland trains have carried enough people over its tracks all these years to cover or to circle the globe about 200 times or more. And as well as the fact that this trains have always run on steam power, even to this very day, contrary to what people think. The reason why people don't know that they still run on steam is because it's widely known that they use number 2 biodiesel oil, but that is only burned as a flame to heat the water to create the steam. So, yes. And, CK Holiday, EP Ripley are 5/8 scale, but the other 3 locomotives are full size, but they're considered narrow gauge, so they fit perfectly on Disneyland's tracks. And and the train goes over many different elevations, varying anywhere from ground level to 10 feet above ground level, as evidenced when you enter the park.
Well, isn't that something? I love that. Thank you, Alex. Well, I guess
my pleasure.
I guess before, because someone did bring up, what's your opinion on the different bench seating configurations, front facing or facing the side? The age-old debate. I've heard Alex talk to this about me, and I think I can remember which of his is his favorite. I think I can agree which of all of ours is our favorite. I'm just going to go ahead and say I do enjoy facing the side more.
Me too.
Alex? Jeremy? As well?
Yeah, side facing.
Of course.
I get disappointed when that other train comes.
Yeah, I mean, not that they're bad, but it is nice to be facing what you're supposed to be seeing as opposed to sitting straight looking at the person in front of you, and you have to turn to see things.
Well, don't let Bob Gurr hear you guys say that, because Bob Gurr was the guy who designed the forward-facing train. And he
it's
guess
cool.
Why? Guess why he did it? Guess why he did it? You don't even know. Guess why he did it?
Why did he do
it?
Why?
I don't. Why?
Because when they were opening the Grand Canyon diorama, they knew the train was going to suddenly experience a huge boost in popularity, and so they wanted a train that could hold as many passengers as possible. So Bob Gurr designed the excursion train, which, remember how I said the other trains hold an average of 250 people? The excursion train holds 350 people. So it's the heaviest train they have. And as a matter of fact, in modern times, their smallest locomotive, which is the Ward Kimball, nowadays they don't have it pull that train because it's not heavy enough to pull the train.
Wow.
Yeah.
Extra fun fact there. I feel like I've heard all of this at one point from Alex when we were riding on the train, but I just can't comprehend everything. So it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear it again. But Gamer Boy Carlos says he likes facing forward more. Wow.
Right.
All the power, more. I don't know how that phrase goes.
It's a beautiful train, though. The one that faces forward.
Sure, it is.
It's probably the prettiest looking one on the whole line, but it's just the worst one, in my opinion, to sit on when you're trying to look at things like the Rivers of America and the dioramas, especially when you're forced to sit all the way on the left. So, yeah.
Well, I think that is gonna... I'm trying to think of a train pun that I can make. I think that is going to...
That's the end of the line.
That's the end of the line, you guys. That's the end of the line for this week's Attraction Retrospective. Again, you can vote for next week's Attraction Retrospective if you head over to my Twitter, twitter.com/MatterhornMatt. I put out polls each week for which attraction we do retrospecting on. That's not a verb. Retrospecting's not a verb, I don't think. But anyways, someone said, Gamer Boy Circle said, I think this might be the longest Matterhorn Mondays episode ever. What was our longest episode? Our longest was 3 hours.
Our longest episode was over. It might have been over 3 hours.
It was over 3 hours.
I think it was over 3 hours.
I can't remember what we talked about during that episode.
Either.
They all blur together.
It was a long.
Guys.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But
one last thing to self-promote. So, as many of you know, I have a history YouTube channel where I talk about Disneyland history.
Today,
eventually,
Today.
That's the name of my show, Disneyland History. You remembered. So if any of you are interested in the Disneyland Railroad, I will eventually be making a video about the history of the Disneyland Railroad. It will include a lot of fun facts. I can't even stress to you how many. The show will probably end up being in 3 parts. There'll be 3 different videos, each one at least 20 to 25 minutes long. So you're looking at a good like hour to 70 minutes kind of like full-on video about everything I could possibly say about the railroad, how it operates, its history, everything like that. I can't say when it's going to happen, but I'm hoping once the parks reopen, I can get more footage of the trains, so I'm not limited to what I just have. So
great. And guys, look out on this channel on Tuesday.
We said that last week. We're serious
okay,
this time.
We're really actually serious this time.
Copyright, guys. We're close. Well, we're there, actually, for the Pinocchio episode. But again, Alex's channel will be linked, as always, in the description. If you guys haven't subbed to Alex, we've been going on for 133 episodes of this show. And if you have not subbed to Alex the Historian yet, what are you doing, you guys? Alex has been on YouTube before I was on YouTube, actually. Or before I started making at least Disney videos, at least. So Alex predates me.
Back then, he was just a little tadpole.
I was just a little tadpole, yeah. And I've grown into a full
toad.
Frog.
No, not yet.
Not yet. I'm getting there, you guys. I'm getting there.
Okay, let's end this thing.
Yeah, it's time to end the episode, you guys. The train, Ryan said, has come to a stop. The show is departing the station, you guys. We hate to do it. We hate to leave you guys every week, but yeah. Thank you all for coming to today's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Links will be in the description, as always, to all of our social media, all that jazz. Alex's channel, Jeremy's Twitter, my Twitter. You guys know the drill. Down in the description below. And if you have any thoughts you would like to leave on the Disneyland Railroad, you can do so by calling 575-386 5814, leaving a voicemail. We'll listen to those voicemails at the beginning of the next episode. You guys can also comment down below, but as you all know, it is required now, if you listen to the show, to call in, leave a voicemail. We want to see all thousands of views. Mandatory, yeah. If you don't, you'll be getting detention next episode. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's time to round off the episode, you guys. Again, thank you all for coming to today's episode. And as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.